If you enjoy this podcast summary, please consider subscribing. Jordan Peterson recently sat down with Jim Balsillie to discuss the state of Canada's economy in the time of Trump.
Balsillie, a co-founder of BlackBerry, shared his insights on how Canada failed to adapt to the shift from a production-based economy to a knowledge-based economy. He argued that Canada's original sin was signing agreements like NAFTA and TRIPS without understanding the implications, which led to the country being left behind in the global economy.
Peterson summarized the situation, noting that Canada's wealth was built on natural resources, manufacturing, and finance. But the ground rules shifted radically in the 1990s with the emergence of the internet and the knowledge-based economy.
Balsillie agreed, stating that the U.S. understood the importance of corralling knowledge and monopolizing intellectual property, while Canada failed to adapt. The conversation delved into the concept of intangibles, which now make up 90% of the value of the S&P 500. Balsillie explained that intangible assets, such as designs and software, are non-rivalrous and can be used by multiple people at the same time. But the owner of the intellectual property has the legal right to stop others from using. Balsillie argued that Canada needs to understand the new rules of the game and adapt its economy accordingly. He noted that the country's economic thinking capacity was dismantled, and the government took a hands-off approach, relying on the idea that cutting taxes and regulations would lead to economic growth. However, this approach has led to Canada being taken advantage of by foreign companies, particularly in the tech industry.
Peterson and Balsillie discussed the concept of the resource curse, which suggests that countries with an abundance of natural resources are often less productive and less wealthy.
However, Balsillie argued that this is a false myth, citing examples of countries like Norway and Sweden, which have managed to balance their natural resources with innovation and productivity. The discussion then shifted to the impact of Trump's presidency on Canada, with Balsillie arguing that Trump's actions are a manifestation of a new era of economic nationalism. He believes that Trump is using tariffs and other measures to assert American dominance in the global economy, and that Canada has set itself up to be vulnerable to these actions by failing to develop its own economic strategy. Balsillie emphasized the importance of understanding the complexities of the global economy and the need for Canada to develop its own unique strengths and capabilities in order to thrive. He argued that Canada needs to focus on innovation, intellectual property, and building capacity in the civil service, and that leadership must be open to new ideas and willing to listen to experts. The conversation also touched on the topic of the upcoming leadership race for the Liberals, with Mark Carney emerging as the likely winner. Balsillie expressed his concerns about Carney's economic policies, particularly his focus on climate change and the need to transition away from fossil fuels. However, Balsillie argued that Carney's approach is flawed, as it would make Canada's economy less competitive and lead to a decline in living standards. Balsillie also criticized Carney's lack of attention to intellectual property and data-driven economies, which he believes are crucial for Canada's future prosperity. He noted that Canada has a significant deficit in intellectual property and is a major importer of technology products, which undermines the country's economic competitiveness. The conversation highlighted the challenges facing Canada's economy and the need for a more nuanced approach to addressing the country's economic challenges. Balsillie emphasized the importance of developing a more nuanced understanding of the global economy and the need for Canada to develop its own unique strengths and capabilities in order to thrive. In summary, Balsillie's diagnosis of Canada's economic problems is dire, but he believes that the country has the potential to succeed with the right approach. He argues that Canada needs to focus on innovation, intellectual property, and building capacity in the civil service, and that leadership must be open to new ideas and willing to listen to experts. With the right strategy, Balsillie believes that Canada can overcome its challenges and thrive in the global economy. Balsillie also sees potential in the political leadership at the subnational level, particularly in provinces like Manitoba and Alberta, which are eager to implement value-added strategies and focus on innovation and intellectual property. He believes that all the necessary fundamentals are in place for success, and that Canada has the opportunity to make a positive change and roar if they choose wisely. Main learning from Video Way. The discussion centers around Canada's failure to adapt to the knowledge-based economy and its reliance on natural resources, manufacturing, and finance. Balsillie argues that Canada signed agreements like NAFTA and TRIPS without understanding the implications, leading to a loss of control over its economy. He emphasizes the importance of intellectual property ownership and the need for Canada to take a more aggressive approach to protecting its interests. The conversation also touches on the concept of intangibles, which now make up 90% of the value of the S&P 500, and the need for Canada to develop its own innovation ecosystem. Balsillie criticizes Mark Carney's economic policies, arguing that they are outdated and inefficient, and instead sees promise in the emerging policies of Pierre Poilievre, who emphasizes the need for Canada to take back control of its economy and be sovereign, secure, and prosper. Overall, the conversation highlights the challenges facing Canada's economy and the need for a more nuanced approach to addressing the country's economic challenges. The key takeaway is that Canada needs to focus on innovation, intellectual property, and building capacity in the civil service. And that leadership must be open to new ideas and willing to listen to experts. With the right strategy, Balsillie believes that Canada can overcome its challenges and thrive in the global economy. If you are interested to listen to complete 16-minute summary and unlock detailed insights for each topic discussed in the video, check out Quick Podcast Summaries on Spotify and Apple Podcasts with free trial and later, just for the price of candy. Happy listening.